That'll take us live, get us up on the platforms, even though it takes a hot second. And I think probably hitting record is usually a good way to start, a podcast. Well, happy Monday, my friend. Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And taking the time as a quick way to get started. Please brag about yourself a little bit. Give us a 60-second background as to what led you to where you're at in your career today.
Oh, thanks, Connor, and thanks for having me. I'm Jim Ries, Director of Business Development at Offutt Kerman. We're a full-service law firm, and what got me to where I am today is just hard work and determination. So I'm fortunate to be working with a lot of wonderful professionals at Offutt Kerman. We're a very entrepreneurial and very progressive law firm. We are a law firm that's run like a business. And as I say, our attorneys are business advisors who happen to have law degrees. So I'm really, really blessed to be a part of Offutt Kerman, and it's been a great place for me to grow.
I was muted. What are some of the exciting parts of business law? I feel like people see it as a very kind of a dry industry, but I mean, there's got to be a reason why you're in it, why you're passionate about it.
Well, I love business development because business, and a lot of people ask me, well, so you're in sales, right? And I'm like, no, business development and sales are different. In business development is opening doors. Sales is really closing doors. Business development conversations are more about the client. Sales conversations are more about the person selling you something. And as we've known for a long time, and people are smart now, that people like to buy, they don't like to be sold. And people buy based on emotions, and then they justify their purchases based on logic. So it's a very much, what I do is a relationship-driven transaction, and it takes a long time. So this is it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to be tolerant and have plenty of patience, and just plant seeds and build relationships and cultivate those relationships.
Right. What is it that's unique about business relationships when it comes to providing law services versus other products and services?
Well, you, like with anything else, you do have to differentiate yourself or the firm or the company that you represent. So as I mentioned previously, Offutt Kerman, our differentiator is we're very business-like. We're run like a business, so we understand your business. We're very entrepreneurial, very progressive, and we understand how to speak to the business owners. We know what they want, and we know how to get them there. We know how to get them there while protecting their assets as well, because that's part of our job. And again, as I said before, our attorneys are really business advisors that have law degrees.
Yeah, most are not as much business advisors as they are kind of like technical lawyers. That's kind of the difference there.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, interesting. So how have you successfully gone about building your network? You have a pretty large following on LinkedIn, and from what I can tell, people are very engaged with you online also, which is unique to other business development peers of yours. What steps have you taken to successfully start, build and monetize relationships?
Well, I started this role at Offutt Kerman about 7.5 years ago, and I had a decent network of centers of influence and business owners in the Central Maryland area. And I just decided to learn how to get to people and get to know people, and continuously touch people. So I did a good job of that. A lot of that was, as they say, pressing the flesh and shaking hands and slapping people on the back. And I worked tirelessly to go to every meaningful networking event that I could find. And to follow up with people, you got to be good at follow up. If you don't follow up, you're wasting your time even going to these events. So I pretty much taught myself how to do it. And I figured I just will outwork everybody else and stay ahead of everybody else. Then I learned the wonderful things about LinkedIn and how great of a platform LinkedIn is. So now I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm active creating my own meaningful and relevant content and sharing others' meaningful and relevant content. And I do it consistently, and I post the type of information that my network would expect me to post. So I'm posting a lot about networking and connecting, maybe some low-level legal stuff, because I'm not a lawyer. So it would be wrong for me to be writing my own content about, technical legal stuff. So again, people expect me to be posting about connecting and networking and how to make for good networking events, how to work virtually in our environment that we're working in today, things of that nature. That's what I'm doing.
You seem to understand the value of giving value to, I mean, your market is business owners. And instead of here talking about law and strategy, you're giving useful tips that they can use to grow their own business, which is part of what's made you successful, I would say.
Yeah, well, Connor, one of my pet peeves is the people that you meet and instantly they're trying to sell you. So I tell folks all the time, especially on LinkedIn and their engagement on LinkedIn, don't try to sell right out of the gates. Because if you try to sell right out of the gates, people are going to run for the hills. And it is very, very true, and especially in today's world. People don't like to be sold. They like to buy. So I am not a salesy person. I never will be a salesy person. And I think that's one thing that attracts people to me is that I'm not salesy.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to touch on that you mentioned is the follow-up process, and following up is absolutely vital. You even did it with me. We had an intro call a couple of weeks ago, followed up, I think literally the next day, which I still owe you an introduction, by the way. And you took a very unique approach that no one has. First off, most people don't even take me up on it. I'm like, if you see someone, reach out to me. I'm happy to facilitate an introduction if I think there's value there. And most people don't take you up on that. You literally came with a very specific script. You told me who it was, and you even literally wrote out a script I can easily copy and paste and use for that introduction. Talk about that a little bit and how that's played a role in part of your strategy.
Well, first of all, I do believe in the give to get philosophy, and I give value all day long. And I'm fine doing that. A lot of people won't do that because they feel like they're getting taken advantage of, but I know it's going to come around and come back to me, and it's going to be a good thing for me. So I'm giving value all the time, and then generally someone will turn around and say, "Gee, Jim, you've been very helpful. How can I help you?" And I would say something like, "Well, I'd love to take a look at your LinkedIn connections and send you a few names of some folks I'd like to get connected to." And you would say, "Sure, that's great." Well, I'm going to make your job easy at that point, and I'm going to provide you with my own self-written introduction. I'm going to give you the opportunity and tell you, edit it if you'd like to, but here's an introduction you can use for me. So why make it hard for you? I make it very easy for you. I tell you the people I want to be introduced to, and I give you my script. And all you have to do is copy and paste it and make that introduction. If you're comfortable, and if it's someone that would be a warm introduction. I'm not interested in cold introductions because it takes up too much headspace and the follow-up and it could be dead end. I'm really interested in very warm introductions. I want someone to get your email and say, and reply and say, hey, Jim, if Connor suggested that we talk, then we're going to talk because Connor and I are buddies, or, we exchange referrals or whatever the case might be. I trust Connor's judgment. So he suggested we meet, let's meet, or let's talk. That's the kind of introduction that I want. And I will continue to follow up until I get that introduction in a very respectful way.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people get stuck on that. They want the introduction, they want a referral. They say, hey, send me business or make referrals, but they don't do the research in the background first to, like, if I go to Jim and say, hey, these are good introductions for me, you're just going to go off into the world and forget about it. Versus if I'm saying, hey, I see you're connected with this person, here's the script I want you to use. That almost takes all the guesswork and the crap off of your back that most people get hung up in making introductions in the first place. So I thought it was genius.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do your homework because that shows you've made somewhat of an investment of your time. And I'm happy to do that and get the right introduction.
Absolutely. What are some other recommendations you would make for other business development marketing leaders to master virtual networking and virtual relationship building?
Well, that's a great question. You got a couple hours?
Drop it. As long
So firstly, I would say,
we can make it into a series.
Yeah, right. Engage in social media. Don't be a lurker. A lurker is someone who goes on social media. Let's take LinkedIn, for example, and just read stuff and that's it. Don't just like it, don't just read it, but actually engage. Maybe add some relevant comments to an article that someone posts. Come up with write your own content that you share on LinkedIn. So engage, build a network, share or write your own relevant and meaningful content, and then follow up and comment and continue to engage with people. So don't what I say is don't social distance from social media. Really, and don't be a lurker. Engage, get comfortable with it. Don't just jump in one day and post 5 things in one day. Do what's comfortable. Be authentic. Be yourself, and go start with 1 day a week, and write something, and something that is really about you. Write something. Hey, I was thinking yesterday. I had this conversation with this guy Connor. And it occurred to me that we should be doing ABC, and share that with your network. And then, see the comments and respond to the comments that people write. And then make it something consistent. So if you start with 1 day a week, go to 2 days a week, go to 3 days a week, and keep it consistent. There's plenty of great information out there that is worth sharing. You don't have to be the content creator, but should be a part of your overall strategy is to create your own content. So again, don't be afraid, but be authentic, be yourself, be engaged, and get into it. And I think you'll find that you really enjoy it. And by the way, if you're not engaging, your competitors are. So you better keep up with them and continue to get yourself involved, because you don't want to be left behind.
Can I ask you a question here? That this is meant as an way to honor you, not any other way other than that. You're a baby boomer, right? Would you consider yourself baby boomer?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, first off, I should probably just hire you to be a spokesman for our company, because that was beautifully said. But why do most baby boomers have such a tough time wrapping their arms around that in the world that we live in? So many are still stuck in the old ways. They don't understand the implications of, oh, I comment on this person's post and that gets seen by others, and all the exponential eyeballs that happens outside of that. First off, Where are they getting hung up on that? And how did you and when did you start really adopting that mentality?
I guess generally speaking, baby boomers are used to relationship selling and building a relationship in person. Um, and maybe not comfortable and not used to using social media to be a part of that relationship building strategy. I really embraced it probably 4 or 5 years ago when I saw that, I LinkedIn is the greatest sales database ever. So, and it's a great way to connect with people and to continue to drip on people. So, why not use it? And it is and was free back then. Now I have a paid version of Sales Navigator, but the basic LinkedIn service is free. Where else can you get that database for your sales efforts than LinkedIn? It's tremendous,
With
and
next
there's
to zero spend.
Exactly, exactly. So that's my point. So I get an adrenaline rush when I'm posting, and then I go back and I see how many views and how many comments and how many likes, and I get to respond to the comments, and that's that's the full engagement piece that really gets my adrenaline pumping, and I want to take my engagement up to the next level, and I'm not stopping.
Yeah. I think seeing others such as yourself getting engaged with it helps also because a lot of the people who are talking about it are young punks like me. And they're like, I'm not going to listen to that, guy. He's a millennial. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't been in his business as long as I have. But also not to say, are you still leveraging cold calling? Are you still leveraging emailing? Like, what are some of the other channels you do still take advantage of?
For me and for what I do at Offutt Kerman, cold calling is not a part of my daily routine. I do not cold call. If there's somebody that I want to meet, I'm going to use LinkedIn, and I'm going to find somebody who's got a connection, and I'm going to get to that person. I'm tenacious in that respect, but why not? I don't think you ever have to make a cold call in my kind of a role for a law firm. I don't see why you would ever have to make a cold call. So I don't do cold calls.
Love it. What else do you think other business development folks are doing wrong in leveraging LinkedIn?
Well, the number one thing they're doing wrong, you mentioned a while ago, and that is they're not following up. So again, why would you make all of these efforts and take all of this time and track people down and not follow up? It makes zero sense at all. So I think that's their number one curse for business development people is they don't follow up. Secondly, I would say, maybe they're not being authentic and they're not being themselves. Um, Maybe they're being too salesy. Again, people don't like to be sold; they like to buy. So if people are too salesy, they're going to get turned off. Um, so those are some of the mistakes. I think another big mistake is business development people. They should know the types of people they want to meet. So for me, I want to meet business owners and centers of influence. And so I try to figure out, where do they go? Where are they? And it's hard. It's hard to find the business owners because they're usually at their business, working in their business or on their business, and they send business development and salespeople to go to networking events, either virtual or in person. So how do you get to meet those business owners? What I've done is I sort of reversed engineered it, and I realized that if I want to get in front of the right people, I'm going to have my own event, virtual or in person, and I'm going to invite the people who I want to meet. So now I've got about 4 different virtual events that are either biweekly or monthly. And I invite the people that I want to be around and the people that I want to meet or people I want to see again. And that gives me a great advantage because I get in front of those people again, twice a month or once a month at least.
Instead of being at the mercy of other people's events and their audiences, you're creating the platform.
Exactly. So you have an event and, and you say, hey, Jim, this is going to be a good event. There are going to be a lot of business owners there. I'm like, okay, I hope you're right. And I get to the event and they're all people trying to sell stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe 10% are business owners and you can't even get near them because everyone's trying to sell them stuff. So, have your own event and invite the people you want to see to your own event. It works.
We got to get you to start a podcast.
Well, I'm doing a lot of video stuff. I do a video series called Java with Jim, where I have conversations, 2 to 3 minute conversations with clients, with prospects, with centers of influence, and with some of our attorneys. And that's been really very well received.
Yeah, I love it. Good name. One thing you hit on was being too salesy, and someone who's a veteran salesperson like you, sales has evolved, not so much because sales has evolved, but more so buyers have evolved. And especially now, more sensitive, bombarded by information, smarter, more
well
educated.
Prepared before they make their purchase. They're well prepared.
Yeah. How are you navigating that? Because at the end of the day, your job is still reliant on getting new business in the door and getting revenue and getting cash. So how do you navigate that from not being salesy in the relationship to not being salesy to past the point? Like, walk us through your steps from there to actually closing, not closing doors. Because again, it's not about closing doors, it's about opening the door to the next step of the relationship.
That's a great question. So, what happens in my sales cycle, let's call it, is I either meet a business owner or I get a very warm introduction to a business owner. I will make a follow-up and make an appointment to meet them at their office at an agreeable time. I'll meet them at their office, and so far I have yet to meet a business owner that didn't want to give me a tour of their office. This is their proud place. This is where they spend most of their time and energy. So I go to their office, I get a little tour, we end up in the conference room, and I ask a lot of questions, because if you're curious, that's a great characterization you could have. If you're curious, and I'm always curious, I have a business background and I want to learn everything I can about this person's business. I forget who said it, but there's a saying that is to listen more than you speak, right? So take it a step further, as the saying goes, be interested, not interesting. If you're interested, you're asking all the questions. If you're interesting, you're doing all the talking. So we sit down in the conference room and we start having a conversation. I ask a lot of questions about what I saw on the tour and about their business. And they usually say, well, you're asked real good questions. How do you know these, to ask these questions? And I tell them about my business background. I worked in my family business for 31 years. So I got my MBA on the job. And when I meet with those business owners, at the end of the meeting, they fall into one of 3 buckets. The first bucket is they're underserved by their current attorney. They have a family friend attorney or neighbor who's been helping them out for the last 5 years. Now they're doubling in growth, and they sort of feel like they're outgrowing this attorney, and they need greater services. So if my timing is right and they fall into that bucket, there's going to be interest. The second bucket is they might be overbilled by their current attorney or law firm. We know what that is. That doesn't really require any explanation. And the third bucket is they've been ignored by their current law firm or their current attorney. And that happens in all professional services. People get people get just, happy with the way everything is, and professional service providers, they stop the loving with their clients, and they just don't pay attention to them anymore. It leaves the door open. So if a business owner falls into one of those buckets, there's a good opportunity for me and for Offit Kerman to help them out. And a lot of it is timing, right place, right time. So I try to be in a lot of places, a lot of time, to improve my chances on the timing factor. And I'll tell a business owner, they may say to me, "Hey, look, Jim, you seem like a really nice guy. The firm sounds like, you're in a great position to help us out. But I have a lawyer or a law firm just like yours, and we're very happy right now." And my response to them will be, "That's great. I have no problem being in the on deck circle, because sooner or later something will happen with your relationship, or your attorney might move firms, or might retire, or might, maybe you fall out of love with him. I want to be the next guy up. And I have no problem if that's in a week or a month or a year or 5 years from now. Think about me." So that's how I play it.
Well, Jim, thanks for sharing. Thanks for mentoring us through some of your strategies today. And anything else that you feel would be super important, top of mind for you right now to share with the audience?
I do. I have a specific quote that was a part of a presentation I made a few weeks ago, and it keeps coming back and coming back, and it's one of those quotes that keeps on giving. And the quote is, "Networking is about knowing more people. Connecting is about knowing people more." Same words, switch around the more and the people. So networking is about quantity, knowing more people. Connecting is about knowing people more, and that's quality. And that's from the John Maxwell Executive Leadership Podcast, which John Maxwell has a wonderful following, but kudos to him. That's a quote that keeps on giving.
I agree with that. How can people find you, get into contact with you, follow you?
Thanks for asking. So email is jries@offitkerman.com. Our website is offitkerman.com, and Offit Kerman is OFFITKURMAN. Love to hear from anybody who's got any questions or comments about what we discussed today.
Great. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate it. Those of you listening, make sure, don't forget, go subscribe. We're on all your favorite podcast apps. Leave a 5-star review, and we'll see you over in the next one.